Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 5. Excuse me, episode 5 of On Queer Street, featuring, and I'm not going to say full names just in case employers are listening, or and partly because I don't know if they're using their real names on Twitter. But we've got Josh and Stefan joining us today, who very kindly volunteered because, and no offense, guys, I hadn't organised proper guests at all. And then someone asked me yesterday, "Are you going to be doing a pod this week?" And I'm trying to do them every 2 weeks at the moment, and I completely lost track of time. And then I thought, do you know what? It's a bit stupid not to do one when we've got probably the biggest weekend of the year coming up. So thank you very much for stepping in. Guys, I don't know if you want to introduce yourselves briefly or say anything. If you don't, you can stay silent. It's totally fine, and we'll just jump straight into it. But speak now or hold your peace.
I'm university educated chap, so...
Which university?
I'm not going to disclose that because you'll probably slag it off.
Because it's not a real university, yeah. The rule I use.
It's close to Liverpool. It's
not John Moores. John Moores isn't bad actually.
No, John Moores is fine. It's not John Moores.
Liverpool's a good uni as well. Got a mate who went there. Excuse me.
Edge Hill. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. My rule is if the uni was founded after the iPhone came out, then it doesn't really count as a uni.
It's not Oxford Brookes or anything like that, but
Oxford Brookes is good, mate. My dad went to Oxford Brookes, really. But when it was a long time ago, when it was a catering college. But anyway, we won't talk about my dad anymore. I'm not sure people are that interested. But right now, before we start, I'm going to do the 6 degrees of Tony Dodson. In case,
I got it.
Yeah, but don't say your answer yet, though, please.
Okay.
Excuse me. So this week, and hopefully you know the rules by now. Right, whatever that noise was, that's what I was talking about with muting. Is someone eating a packet of crisps or something?
No.
Okay, because I heard it sounded like a fucking load of foil being inhaled into. Please keep your mouth breathing to a minimum. Thank you, guys. Right, 6 degrees of Tony Dodson for this week. As you hopefully know by now, you have to connect the fighter. It's 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon in the boxing world. Connect the fighter via common opponents. And this week's challenge is you have to do it in 5 moves or less. I've only managed it in 5. Less than that, then you potentially win and will leave me looking very stupid. So that should be an incentive for everyone. This week's connection is everyone's favourite UK super middleweight / light heavyweight / world level fighter, Paul Smith Jr. And we're connecting him to Kostya Tszyu, one of the best welterweights of all time. So it's one of the best super middleweights of all time to one of the best welterweights of all time. Paul Smith, Kostya Tszyu, and I will do the answer that I've got at the end of the show. Shoot me your guesses on Twitter or stick them in the chat, and we'll read them out at the end. But I think there's quite a few ways to go on this one. I could only do it in 5.
There's loads of ways.
Yeah, there's quite a few. There's lots of British opponents in common, obviously, and I think you might be able to do it in less than 5. So I'm look forward to being proved wrong. But right, let's Stefan, just checking if you're there, mate. You haven't said anything yet, but we'll assume.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good man. Right, so we'll start off with reviews of the past couple of weeks, and again, it's fortnightly, so some of this is ancient history now. But we'll kick off from about, 12 days ago now. Cleveland, Ohio. I think it was in Cleveland this time. It was Broner against Granados, 10-rounder, 147 pounds. Broner taking I think it was a unanimous decision, but close on. No. Granados got one, didn't he, I think?
Split.
Split decision. Yeah, split decision. So, guys, first of all, did you watch it? Second of all, how did you score it? Josh, do you want to go first?
I haven't got my scorecard with me, but I scored it the exact same as you, I think, 6-4. But I definitely had different rounds than you because I was following your scorecard on Twitter.
Did you? You scored it to Broner?
Yeah. It was clearly an objective fight, though, because obviously we scored different rounds, but we came out with the same scorecard. So
yeah, there were lots of close rounds. I just thought Granados was a bit sloppy, and I saw a lot of people. I think quite a few people had him like 5-1 up, and I just thought, I don't know. It seemed like they were they were sort of.
Yeah, that's a bit of a stretch. That's just a lot of those were Broner haters.
Yeah, they just wanted him to lose, exactly. And I I'm not a fan of the guy, but I was trying to score it objectively. I wasn't really scoring. I had some money on Avanesian, so I wasn't really scoring that objectively. I was giving Avanesian a lot of the close rounds, to be honest, trying to make a case for it. But we'll get onto that in a bit. Stefan, did you watch it, mate? And how did you have it scored at the end?
Yeah, I scored it the same. I had it 6-4 to Adrien Broner.
So yeah, no controversy with the decision. Would you like to see a rematch? I mean, it was a fairly close fight.
Yeah, it was a good fight, entertaining. I thought, Granados was the busier, but it was mainly just arm punches. I think the cleaner work, the better punches, was from AB. I think.
Yeah, that's how I saw it. Sorry, go on. Yeah.
Sorry, I think with Broner, I think, like you say, there's an agenda there, because people want him to lose. They kind of score against him, even though I think he did. I think he did deserve the win, but it was pretty close. I
saw some people the next day calling it a robbery, which is just ridiculous. When you actually. I don't know if Andy called it a robbery, but I know he had Granados winning. I think at the time, a lot of people just get angry. They just really want him to lose, don't they? And they get. Yeah, that's good. He's not. I think Broner's in a weird position. He's not as bad as a lot of people are claiming, but obviously he's nowhere near as good as
real fighters, though. That's the only problem at the moment.
Yeah, you need to move down to 140.
We'll go on to that in a minute, because that's my next question. But I was just saying, he's kind of stuck between being nowhere near as good as he was hyped up as, but also not being as bad as some people are now saying. Like, people are saying
he was really
lose
hyped
to sort
up,
of any. He was, yeah,
really hyped up. Yeah. Like, I was watching something on YouTube before, and they actually took like the original video off YouTube, but it was Max Kellerman talking to Dan Lebertard, where I think it was after Broner beat DeMarco. It might have been the fight before, that Broner could literally go up and fight Mayweather now and give him a good chat, give him a good fight. Like, which seems like ridiculous now.
It does, but the DeMarco performance was very good. But
oh yeah, the uppercuts were quality.
He got quite a lot of credit for beating guys who were much smaller, which is something that happens a lot in Canelo got a lot of credit for beating smaller guys as well. Callum Smith's getting a lot of credit at the moment for beating much smaller opponents. I think people, I don't know, it's one of those weird ones where fans seem to get fooled every single time, And
people were desperate for the next Mayweather, though, weren't they, at that time?
Yeah, and
desperate.
Yeah, and look, he's got quite a watchable style when he actually shows up to fight. I thought the fight was quite good to watch, quite exciting. I got the fight to go the distance was almost evens at the bookies, so I put quite a lot on that because I thought, it's 10 rounds. They both got very good chins, and Broner doesn't throw enough to really knock anyone out at the higher weight.
He's not really stopped anyone conclusively for a while now. Has he?
Well, he doesn't throw enough punches. I think we stopped Theophane, I suppose. He stopped Alec
that
Verdiev.
doesn't count, though.
they're not great fighters, but Alec Verdiev never been stopped before. Just as an example, but he was made for him. But
yeah.
Stefan, you mentioned it earlier, mate.
Yeah.
No, he didn't. He knocked him down at the end, but didn't stop him.
Going to Brown.
We'll get on to Taylor later.
Going to Broner as well.
Sorry, mate. Go on.
Sorry, going to Broner as well. He also he dropped Porter as well. So he's got to be carrying some power up to 147. Thurman and Brook. They had a walls with Porter, but never managed to drop him.
The fact that Broner managed him off a single punch.
Yeah. So he's got to be. Yeah. He doesn't seem to be a big puncher at welterweight, but he's got to be carrying some power up because Porter's durable and tough, and the fact that he dropped him. He's got to have some power. He's got to be carrying some power up at welterweight.
Yeah, I think he certainly has. He does have that kind of single punch, explosive power. And I thought he caught Granados a couple of times. He never hurt him, but he caught him with some really nice shots. And you thought if he could land a few more of those, he might be able to sort of chip away. But I was pretty confident going in that it would go the distance, and there was no stoppage coming either way.
Yeah, I agree.
And I'm fairly confident about a couple of fights this weekend not ending in stoppages. So I'll reveal the picks later on. But Stefan, you mentioned it earlier, mate. You said he should go back down to 140. So my question is, what's his best? If we say Broner's objective is to win a title again, What's the best route you think he should go? Would it be welterweight or light welter for you?
It would definitely be light welter for me. I just looking at the welterweight, the top 10. I just don't see who he beats in there. I just don't think he beats any of them. What
about Peterson? That's a fight that's been talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I did read an article though on Boxing Scene where Peterson said he'll never fight Broner because they're friends. He said he'll never fight him.
Interesting. You would have thought that would have been quite an obvious one to make, given that the other welterweights are all busy.
Yeah, I think if that fight did happen, I think Peterson would beat him.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think Peterson would beat him, but it would be close enough that they could maybe justify giving it to Broner and giving him a title again, because I think Peterson's a bit old, isn't he? They want to kind of cash him out when they can. Whereas Broner's I think he's about 7 years younger than Peterson, so he would be the obvious one.
Speaking of Peterson, has anyone ever changed the style more? I was a bit of like a half casual back when he fought Khan, and it was genuinely the first time I'd seen him. That is casual behaviour though, and he was like pretty much like Madonna in that fight. He was just winging away, just putting loads of pressure on. The next fight I saw him, he was like slick boxer. Has anyone ever changed the style more than that to fight someone?
He's just very very erratic, isn't he? I know what you mean. If you look at something like the Garcia fight. First 6 rounds, he was dancing around the ring, not really engaging at all, trying to use his feet. And then he kind of fought the next 6 rounds entirely up close, really trying to sort of maul Garcia. And I think maybe Peterson's kind of caught between styles because he can do a bit of everything. And he is a very athletic guy. Yeah. You think maybe if he was a bit more limited physically, he might have to kind of pick a style and stick with it. I know what you mean. If you look at the Ortiz fight,
I think he looks better on the front foot. That's just personally. I just think he looks better on the front foot. But
if you're Peterson's trainer and you're fighting Broner next, how do you tell him to fight?
Put it on him. That's the only way people have had success against Broner like that. I think if you give Broner time to pick his shots, he'll pick you apart. So I'd do exactly what he did in the Khan fight.
Yeah, you see, I don't know. I'd be tempted.
I picked Peterson to. Go on, mate.
No. Go on, mate. You go.
I picked him to beat Matisse, which I look a bit stupid now, but that was my pick.
I mean, a fair few people did. It was considered kind of a 50-50 going in, but I think you can't give Matisse too much credit because I think Peterson, his game plan was totally off, I think. And he was, he was coming back from the drug. No, exactly. And I think, you have to use those excuses a little bit. I mean, I bet the house on Matisse to beat Garcia. Just thought there was no way Garcia could win, but we'll get onto that a bit later. So you, Stefan, what did you say, mate? Do you think he should drop down, or do you think he should stay at 147?
No, I think he should drop down to 140. Yeah, I just don't. I don't see him beating any of the top 10 welterweights. I mean, against guys like Peterson, Diaz, maybe Jesse Vargas, guys like that, I think they're winnable. But against the top 10 welterweights, I just think he's lacking. I think they all beat him.
Who would you make 140?
No, I don't make it. No, I agree. I can't see him going down to 140. But in terms of his career, I think that's what he needs to do.
I think he's got to the stage now where he would. It wouldn't just be. It's not a case of him being lazy. I think it's a case of his body kind of slowing down as well. I think he'd really struggle down to get to 140. I think he'd have to really kind of starve himself or whatever, and maybe that would diminish him. If he did get down there, who would you target in terms of going after a belt?
Definitely the winner of Burns in Donga. Is that a unification? Is that a unification for WBA and IBF?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think as long as he makes the weight okay, I think he should have the beating of Ricky Burns or in Donga.
Yeah, I'd still beat him. I'd still pick him to beat Burns. I think it might be a fight that he'd be happy to travel for as well. We could see him in the UK. You never know.
I had a massive argument with your best friend, Tommy, from the asylum, about
what recently.
No. About this is maybe about 3 or 4 years ago now, when it was hyped that Burns and Broner were going to fight. When they were both pretty good. And I was saying that Broner was going to smash him, and then he blocked me, took an L. So,
yeah, he blocked me. He blocked me for a bit, and then had to unblock me again because it was too embarrassing for him.
I'd probably pick Burns to beat him now, though. He'd probably be too fit for him. He'd outwork him.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would actually be quite a close fight. I think if they'd fought when they were supposed to originally, Broner would have smashed Burns, which is why the fight never happened.
Definitely.
When was that? Sort of early 2013, wasn't it? That they were meant to originally fight. Yeah, I think I would have put the house on Broner to win that.
Same.
But unfortunately, I think he's kind of eaten himself out of his best weight, and obviously.
That's the problem with picking fights nowadays, though, especially with those sort of fighters. You just don't know how they're going to turn up physically and mentally. It's almost impossible to pick fights now.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I think the increased access of we'll talk about this a bit later, but being able to see kind of hours of preparation from both guys for most of the big fights, it makes you kind of second guess yourself. So it does makes picking fights a bit harder because you're studying, every detail forensically, and your mind can play tricks on you a little bit. It's almost easier to just watch nothing and then watch the weigh-in
100%.
and then just sort of go from there. Which is what I'm trying to do with Bellew against Haye. Trying not, but we won't go down the rabbit hole yet on that one. We'll save that to the end. But very quickly on Peterson, Avanesian, I thought it was a fairly clear sort of 8-4 type of fight. Avanesian's he's not a top 10 guy, but decent win for Peterson to come back. Where would you like to see him go next at 147? Either of you jump in.
God, where do you even go with him? I don't even know. Probably fight a fringe guy.
Could fight the loser of Garcia Thurman. That would make sense.
Probably oh yeah, because people ran about him. Got robbed from Garcia. Yeah, that probably does make sense, to be fair. Garcia would definitely take it.
Yeah, I agree. Peterson's high up the WBA rankings, isn't he? Because he won the regular belt, which Avanesian won against Mosley. So yeah, I think facing the loser of Thurman Garcia makes sense.
And obviously, we hope that the winner would fight the winner of Brook against Spence, and we'd get a unified champion. Fingers crossed. But yeah, no, Peterson's a good kind of. He's the guy you need to beat to get into the top 5, isn't he? That's sort of his level.
Yeah, it's like a high level gatekeeper. There's nothing flashy to him, but he does everything well. It's tough to beat. So. Yeah, I think it's an hard night's work for anyone, to be honest.
Yeah, I'd say he's 7 out of 10 in every department, and that's not not an insult. 7 out of 10 at world level is pretty good against the best guys. But yeah, no, not a bad fight. I thought for a while they might bring him over as a Brook opponent because of the angle with Khan. I thought maybe that would happen last year, and then obviously Peterson disappeared off the face of the earth.
Yeah, they would have if Spence wasn't mandatory. If they could get out of fighting Spence, which they pretty much got backed into a corner with, they would have probably fought Peterson or someone like that. You're right.
Yeah, I thought it might have made more sense around the time of the Triple G fight, but then obviously Golovkin, that's a much bigger money fight. But yeah,
broke his face.
Yeah, broke his face in about 90 seconds or whatever it was. Right, now we're going to do what I did last time with Tom Craze, which kind of worked a bit. Instead of just sort of recapping, we'll just do a particular question that's come out of a particular fight, if that makes sense. So rather than reviewing Brown versus Williams, which was a very good fight, if anyone hasn't watched it, it's well worth. That's Marcus Brown against Thomas Williams, which was on the undercard of Broner 12 days ago or whatever. Very good fight. Brown winning by knockout, a real sort of shootout. And he's, I guess, a top 10 guy at 175 now. So my question coming out of that is 175 pounds light heavyweight the best division in the sport at the moment? Either of you jump in.
It's definitely up there. I'm not sure. You've got the cruiserweight division, which I don't think is stacked as the light heavyweight. But
don't you think light heavyweight's got the names that cruiserweight doesn't have?
Yeah, it has. Like Andre Ward, Kovalev, Stevenson, Gavassi.
Yeah, they've got the pay-per-view guys, whereas cruiserweight doesn't really, does it? And I like the cruiserweight division a lot, but it's not got that kind of brand recognition, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And all 6 levels apart, and then other than that, you've got so many guys who are evenly matched. Like you said, they're not big names, but they're good fighters.
Yeah, I think
cruiserweights are more willing to fight each other, though. That's the only problem.
Well, they are and they aren't.
Heavyweights just aren't willing to fight.
Well, I mean, if you look at what we've got at the moment, Gvozdyk against Barrera, that's 2 top 10 guys. You've got, Barrera against Beterbiev. You've got Gvozdyk against, who's Gvozdyk fighting? He's got a decent name next. So can one of you look that up while I'm talking? Sorry, because I know Gvozdyk's got a decent name coming up. I think that was announced a couple of weeks ago. You've obviously got Ward Kovalev again. You've got Alvarez against Stevenson probably next. You've got guys like Joe Smith. You've got Fonfara fighting this weekend. And all these guys, I mean, I think a lot of these guys are sort of fair. Stevenson's probably the exception, but the rest of them seem happy enough to fight each other. And obviously we know Kovalev will fight anyone.
Yeah, but they'll all duck Kovalev, including Ward, that is. Beterbiev might fight him because they've got that history thing, but I think everyone else would duck Kovalev.
I'm looking up, trying to get this Gvozdyk thing up because he had a really nice. Oh, it's against Gonzalez, that Unieski Gonzalez who fought John Pascal. Do you remember him? Again,
Yeah.
These are all top 15 guys, and they're all fighting each other. You're not getting any Rod Salkers or complete bums sneaking in. I think it's a pretty good division.
Yeah, Fonfara Dawson as well. Badu Jack's moved up. Bivol.
Yeah.
There's that much depth to the division. It's mad.
We're going to get onto that later, but I don't think Dawson Fonfara is a good fight, to be honest. That's a poor fight.
Yeah, it's not the.
We'll get onto it in a bit.
Yeah, we'll get onto it later. We'll get onto it later.
I think it's okay for what it is, but yeah, well, okay. So we're saying 175 is up there. If it's not the best division, what would you guys say was at the moment?
I would say possibly featherweight.
Yeah, featherweight's up there. I think 130 is very good at the moment. Again, because everyone's fighting everyone else. And it was, I mean, flyweight was amazing for a while, but now it seems to have slowed down. And you've got, Gonzalez and Estrada and Quadras and all the rest of them, and they're all fighting different people. And it just seems like the politics are holding things up at the moment. And obviously, Inoue, and none of those 4 are fighting each other next. And it's a bit of a shame. That could be a phenomenal division.
What's Inoue doing? It's hard to keep up with the Japanese fighters because they're not. We obviously can't understand what they write on social media, even if they do have social media. And like news stories are like few and far between.
It's I think that the issue with Japan has always been that they can do big stadium and big numbers on TV against pretty much anyone. Most of them have no reason to come to the States. They can make really good money fighting at home against bums. Whereas the Mexican guys need to travel to make the big money. So which kind of, you had Yamanaka fight today, didn't you, against the Mexican guy? And Yamanaka's one of arguably top 10 pound for pound in the sport.
Quality.
He's got no reason.
Technique-wise, definitely.
Yeah, he's a fantastic fighter. I think it was his 12th defense or something like that today. He's knocked out like 10 or 11 of the 12 he's beaten while as a champion, but he's got no reason to leave Japan at all. He wouldn't make any more money fighting in the States. And it's kind of until the US guys start putting up a bit more money for the smaller fighters, there's no reason, and it's going to stay as it is, unfortunately. But I don't mind.
They're not going to come out on Twitter either, are they, and like start slagging people for fights, the Japanese guys, because they probably don't know how to do it.
Yeah, and it's a cultural thing as well. They just Asians.
Exactly.
It's like Pacquiao, isn't it? He never slagged anyone off. It is a cultural thing. They don't trash talk at all in that part of the world, which is great. And obviously, something that I wish we could take on board at Sky a little bit, where it seems that trash talking is more important than fighting at the moment, unfortunately. But now we're gonna skip forward a week, and we're gonna recap the PBC show from last Saturday. And we'll start off, and again, I'm going to do this rather than recapping the fights because we all know what happened, and I don't think any of these went to the scorecard, so we don't need to do scores. But if we start off with Dominic Breazeale knocking out Ugono, the Polish heavyweight, who looked very good early on, I thought, but then obviously seemed to gas a bit and got knocked out. My question is there anything better in the sport, Stefan? This is for you. Is there anything better in boxing than a heavyweight kind of shootout brawl between 2 B-level guys? I think if you put two B-level guys in who are both going for the knockout, heavyweights, that's basically the best recipe you can have in the sport. You just know it's going to be really, really good fun.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Brazil Ngannou fight, it was, like round 3 looked like Ngannou was going to get stopped. Then round 4 looked like Brazil was, and then it was just back and forth. And yeah, it was just a brilliant fight.
And no one cares that neither of those guys are, elite fighters. If boxing had a fight like that every week, well, maybe. But I mean, if there was a fight like that on Sky every week, boxing would be the most popular sport in the country, or one of them. It would be right up there. If you had a scrap like that, no one would care that Dominic Breazeale is never going to win a world title. It doesn't matter. It's both guys going for it, and it's going to end in a knockout. And that's what heavyweight fighting is all about, or what it used to be all about. And we've kind of got away from that recently with mismatches and matchmaking and all the rest of it. So it's nice to see an old school kind of shootout type fight. Josh, my question for you, mate, does this make Joshua's win look even better, or was it a case of Ngannou being sort of exposed?
No, it doesn't make it look better. I still think Brazil's pretty shit.
It's tough though. I mean, he's been knocked down and hurt in a couple of fights, and he's come back to win.
Yeah, but don't you? It's another one of these things. Like, what would it be if he got in shape? Like, why is he so out of shape most fights? In every fight, even in the Joshua fight, he got a little bit slimmer, but tits and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like he gasses after 3 or 4 rounds, is it? He's a guy who's got a decent engine. He can keep fighting. I think.
Is that him? Like, is that a good chin, or is that his actual gas tank though?
I think he's got a pretty good chin, I would say. But I mean, what I mean
got a good chin.
He's not just taking a beating; like he's throwing punches back, and he's able to keep up a high pace. And Ngannou, looked like Joshua on the scales, didn't he? Like completely ripped, but he was the one who was knackered after 4 rounds.
He was small though.
Yeah,
he was small.
He was quite small, and Breazeale is big. I think people don't realise sometimes how he was. He's like 6'6" or something. He's a very big guy.
He was a quarterback at American football, wasn't he? In college or something like that. Jesus, he was a big guy.
Yeah. I think Washington was as well in the main event. I think he used to play American football, high school or university football. But okay, so we're saying it's more a case of Ngannou being exposed than Joshua's win looking better. Okay, I've got a feeling that Breazeale might beat some people over his career, and it will ultimately look like a much better win on Joshua's record. But that
shocks and stuff.
Yeah, no, I think he could beat some top 10 guys, and then people will look back and say, do you know what? Joshua absolutely dominated that guy. That was. Can
I just go off into like a little soliloquy about Joshua, just quickly?
Yeah, go. Yeah.
I was at I was ringside for the one in Manchester. Right, yeah, it's a good card and stuff, and then fight started going on, and then it got to Joshua, and I was like, started looking one way and the other, looking at my program, and I was like, right, so Ortiz is on the card and Joshua's on the card. Him at the same time. They're here. Probably Ortiz is getting next to nothing. Why was Joshua not in with Ortiz right then, right there? If he's this absolute monster that Hearn's making him out to be.
What you mean after the Allen fight for Ortiz?
It could have been after that fight, yeah.
Well, they don't want to fight Ortiz because Ortiz will beat.
Someone
Joshua.
said to me, exactly. But some guy was like to me, "Oh, they're trying to build it," and I don't think they are trying to build that fight. I don't think they are. They're on about putting Ortiz in with Dillian White, aren't they? So they're not trying to build the Joshua fight. I don't think so, anyway. But if Joshua, it was like someone was saying about Callum Smith. If they're that good, and it's not like it was hard to get Ortiz over or pay him money because he was there on the fucking night. But
I think the issue is it's a very, obviously Hearn knew that the Klitschko fight was very close, and that's a multi-million-pound stadium fight. And obviously Ortiz is not, Joshua would make good money, but Ortiz isn't that cheap considering this is a guy who's headlined HBO and all the rest of it. He's not going to come over and fight for pennies.
Well, what did he get for the Allen fight?
I don't know. I guess he got.
It can't have been much, can it?
No, but you'd think it would be close to 6 figures. I don't know. I really don't know. But I know he got. He was getting. he was getting a few $100,000 for fighting on HBO, and he was fighting sea-level opponents, and he was getting very well paid.
But Tony Thompson and Jennings would smash Dave Allen.
I think
smash him.
I'd like to see Tony Thompson fighting someone like Allen. Honestly, no, I like Thompson.
Oh, the White Rhino versus the Tiger from Kellogg's.
Yeah, exactly.
Jesus.
And obviously Thompson's about 40 now, and Allen's pretty young. He's like 23 or something like that.
He looks about 40 though.
Well, he does, exactly. That's what I mean. Thompson arguably looks younger, despite being 20 years older. But yeah, I've got nothing against Dave Allen. He knows what he is.
I've gone off subject there.
He's an English level guy. But yeah, we'll stick to the topic, right? So you're saying Brazil just isn't that good, and Ngannou was a bit overrated, right? Stefan, coming to you, mate. Hurd. I don't want to sound arrogant, but it was another one. I predicted it to the letter what would happen. Said Harrison leans forward when he's defending. Hurd's best punch is the uppercut. I thought Harrison started incredibly well. I actually fell asleep because I'd been out all day watching the rugby, and I woke up in about round 3, and I checked Twitter, and everyone was saying Harrison is taking him to school. This is unbelievable. And I got carried away and put 20 quid on Harrison to win a decision, which cancelled out my bet on Hurd to win by knockout. So I made nothing off the fight, which was a shame. But basically, were you impressed with either guy? And what do you do with Jarrett Hurd next? Because he's got a title now, but I think he should be very careful about fighting the other champions at 154 at the moment.
Yeah, I think I was a bit impressed with Hurd, but not overly impressed. I think he'll probably take a voluntary next, probably against someone like Trout.
I think Trout would beat him.
Solid. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, he'd have a good chance. But Trout's coming for loss, isn't he, against Charlo? And
he's old now, Trout. I think it'll be someone like Martirosyan, someone like that. A fairly safe opponent.
Yeah, I don't think Vandes is ranked by the IBF, so I'm not sure whether they'll.
No, is he not? I thought he fought for their belt a while. I might be going nuts, but
he might be. I don't know, but just from memory, I know Vandes said he beat him with one hand on social media. So.
I would actually give him a reasonable chance in that fight. I think maybe that's a kind of 60-40 to Hurd, but I wouldn't give Hurd much chance against Lara or the other Charlo, Jamel.
Yeah, I agree.
I think.
With Tony Harrison, I find him frustrating. I don't know if you'll agree, but I think he's got world level skills, but he's just got no heart. That fight was exactly the same as the Monroe fight, where he was leading, he was boxing well. They put a bit of pressure on him, and he just seems to give up and look for a way out.
I think it's his stamina, to be honest, mate. It looks to me like he just hits a wall, and he has to kind of, he's just absolutely exhausted. I did think against Willie Nelson, he was trying to get up and carry on, but he was absolutely exhausted.
Yeah.
And
it reminds me a bit of Saddam Ali with it in terms of he loves showing like crisp shots. Like every shot has to be like perfect, or he seems like annoyed with himself. It's weird.
Yeah, apparently there's a word for that. Someone mentioned it during the Vargas Ali fight.
Trichinophobia or something like that.
No. It's apparently it's a word they use in the gyms. It's called swag boxing, and it's about the guys who like to throw the sort of textbook punches. And if you ruffle them up, they just don't throw anything back, and they'll just sort of cover up. And it's either you either throw the textbook shot or you don't throw anything. And I know what you mean. Harrison is a little bit like that, and Ali was sort of badly exposed for doing that against Vargas, because Vargas just roughed him up. I think that's a good comparison.
It's like they have to see like sweat wipe off someone else's glove, and they kind of have to make a sound that I think they both make a sound with their mouth when they throw a punch as well.
Yeah, I mean, Broner does it a little bit as well, doesn't he? He kind of Broner will shell up, and then he'll only throw a punch when he's got a bit of room, and he's kind of got the space to sort of properly put his back into it, and like you say, look for the kind of highlight reel,
like a weirdo.
Yeah, it's a strange one, but
to be fair though, it catches casual's eye.
Catches judges' eyes as well.
True, that's true. Ian John Lewis.
No, but honestly, any judge, I think most judges would be fooled by a kind of perfect, a perfect clean shot. And Harrison obviously did catch he caught Hurd a bit in the opening few rounds, but it was just a case of, I was quite impressed with Hurd and sticking to the game plan and realising that there was an argument he probably lost, 5 of the first 6 rounds he probably lost. But he stuck to, yeah, he was way behind, but he stuck to the game plan and he kept just, putting his foot on the gas, trying to grind Harrison down. I was quite impressed with that. I think
he's flat-footed, isn't he, though, Hurd?
Yeah, and he's kind of got the Broner pose. He does the kind of cross guard, and he looks to kind of
but for some reason he seems to always have his feet parallel to his opponent, and it's weird. He kind of like,
I think, yeah, I know what you mean. He needs to set himself. He doesn't really, with a very improvisational style.
Yeah,
I know what you
like you said. He's open to someone who can take a bit of a punch. Any of the Charlos or anything like that, they'll just outbox him easily.
Anyone who can do 12 comfortably.
Lara will school him.
Lara would potentially win every single round. Yeah.
Lara's Ainsley was saying on the next week pod that he white broke out. I don't think he would.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, you skipped a little bit. What? Say that again.
Sorry. And on the next week pod, which I know I shouldn't have spoke about, but he was saying that Brook at 154, but I don't think he would.
Brook would beat Hurd at 154. Yeah.
No, he was saying that Hurd would smash.
I think Brook could beat plenty of guys.
I think Brook
could
beat Hurd. I think he could outbox Hurd. I think so, but we'll see.
You never know. I mean, honestly, that could be a fight they look at if Brook loses to Spence, or even if he wins and wants to move up and decides that it's too tough to make the weight. Yeah, I think that's quite a good shout. That could
because
be one
with that
they
sort
look
of fight as well, if he fought, say, Liam Smith, that's the kind of, if he loses, he's losing face in the UK. But if he loses to Hurd, no one really gives a shit. Again, anyway.
Yeah, and obviously it would be for a belt if he gets there quick enough, which is a big incentive. And they're not going to make Liam Williams against Kell Brook, are they? Anytime soon? That will never happen. So yeah,
that'll never happen.
I don't listen to the Next Week pod anymore, but that's a pretty good shout. So I'll give Ainsley his credit. That fight I could actually see that fight making a lot of sense.
No, don't give him credit. He was saying that Brook would get smashed, and he wouldn't get smashed.
I think the matchup makes a lot of sense. I think the matchup could happen. Yeah, I think that could happen.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right, and we'll go right. Last fight from this card. We've done well. We've almost finished previewing. Wilder knocking out Gerald Washington, 5th round. Arguably lost the first 4 rounds, and then same story with Wilder. And then throws the right hand, and the fight is over. Arguably got the best one-shot power of anyone at heavyweight. Maybe Haye, if Haye's still, still got that explosiveness. But Wilder, huge puncher. But Stefan, question to you, mate: is he the weakest champion at heavyweight?
No, I still think Joseph Parker. I just think Ruiz and Ruiz and Takam were good wins, but it showed that he's a bit vulnerable when you put pressure on him, and you can outbox him in spells. But the main difference between Wilder and Parker is the power. Wilder's got that one-punch power. That's why I think he's still a bit more dangerous than Joseph Parker.
I think the fight would probably, if that fight happens, and it has been talked about, I think that would probably look quite similar to the Washington thing. It would be a case of Parker winning some rounds and then maybe potentially getting caught with something huge.
Yeah, I'd expect it to go the same way. I think Parker would be winning and then one right hand, and that's it.
Where would you like to see Wilder go?
Chin holds up first. Sorry. We need to see how Parker's chin holds up against a punch, that's all. It'd be a lot clearer that fight.
Get hit.
Yeah,
I've seen him hurt and kind of... Sorry, mate, go on.
Yeah, I know there's talk of Wilder fighting Stefan, which is, a bit uninteresting.
It's been ordered, that fight.
Yeah, it's been ordered, yeah, he's mandatory, isn't he? But I don't know if he got mandated. I mean, he's fought once in 2 years against Derek Rossi, and he's mandated. It's mad.
I'm absolutely convinced that Stefan took a dive in the first fight against Wilder because... And there's lots of... No, do you know, it sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory, but there's quite a lot of evidence to back it up.
It's not conspiracy, Don King's his promoter.
Well, yeah, exactly, including the fact that Don King's the promoter of Stefan. Don King has absolutely no power anymore in the sport, and yet he co-promoted Wilder's next fight after he beat Stefan. For some reason, Don King co-promoted that show. No explanation was ever given. Obviously, Stefan fought like a completely different person to the guy who'd fought Areola and knocked him out and all the rest of it. And now Stefan has immediately got a rematch despite barely fighting. I think he's fought once in like 2 years, and he's immediately got the rematch. I'm pretty sure there was a deal done. And whether it was an explicit sort of bribe, it was a case of maybe Don King giving the opportunity and saying, right, I'm giving you this title shot. My guy's not in very good shape. And if you beat him, I'd like the favour returned. I'm not really interested in the rematch, although I do think Stefan could do a lot better if he showed up in better shape.
That fight seems so long ago, but it was only 2 years ago. It seems about 5 years ago, that Wilder-Stefan fight.
It's actually the best I've seen Wilder box. The first fight, the fight against Stefan. I actually thought he boxed well in that. As poor as Stefan was,
Yeah,
I thought Wilder showed some skills, boxed well behind his jab, but ever since.
But this is what makes me so suspicious, because he fought completely different tactically in that fight to any other. And I think my again, look, it's a theory, but I think he was told, look, if you just stick behind your jab, my guy won't try too hard to win the fight, and you can have a decision, sort of thing. Because he never went for the KO. Abysmal shape, and he used his jab. Whereas the first 4 rounds against Washington, he barely threw a punch, let alone
he did try and go for the KO in the Stefan fight, but he just trips over himself, so he can never finish.
There was that one moment, wasn't there? But I mean, I thought it was a different Wilder, which was weird, because I think he could have knocked him out if he'd wanted to.
He's stuck in between styles, so I know that's only one style he's ever shown once, but do you think he could use his jab? He definitely could use his jab a lot more. We've seen him use a half-decent jab against Stefan, but he never uses it anymore.
He's not that young. I think he is what he is. He's a guy with a very few skills, just a huge right-hand punch, And look, Wilder could, if Wilder fought Joshua, if he lands the right hand, then he wins, against anyone in the division. He will knock them out cold. But it's the lack of technique. I still think a guy. The only way he's landing that shot is a huge kind of Hail Mary out of the blue.
I don't know.
Yeah, sorry, mate. Go on.
That's all right. It's a jab. Surely he could. I don't know who's got the bigger reach out of him and Joshua. I'm pretty sure it's Wilder though. Yeah.
Yeah, Wilder.
Yeah. So if he could surely keep people at a range with that jab. Well, I don't know. It's a weird one.
He never throws it. Yeah. Sorry, mate. Go on.
Yeah. What did you guys make of the stoppage? Do you think it was a fair stoppage? I thought it was fair enough. I thought Washington was on his way.
I was half asleep.
Yeah.
I got really
no objection. No objection. It could have been, he could have been allowed to continue, but I've got no issue. Okay, right. So we've done that. Right. Thank you for bearing with me on that one. Now we'll quickly go over to the Matchroom show. Okay, now we're going to do a variation of one of my favourite questions. And this is, I'm going to try and introduce this as a regular feature. I use this quite a lot when I'm watching politicians speak, and it's a device that it's very, very useful for kind of cutting through the rhetoric and all the rest of it. So if you hear a politician speak and you're a bit confused about what they mean, you have to ask yourself, are they stupid or are they lying? If they say something that's kind of a bit, it just doesn't quite add up. So the game is stupid or liar. If we adapt it slightly for boxing, it's shit or corrupt. So, Josh, I'll go for you, mate. For McDonnell against Vargas, in a fight where there was an argument, Vargas won every single round. Ian John Lewis, shit or corrupt?
Shit, definitely shit. He's not corrupt, I don't think.
I'm tempted to agree with you, actually. I think he's too stupid to be corrupt. Do you know what I mean?
I think if it was corrupt, do you mean from like Hurd's end?
No, I mean, was he paid off? Was he paid off, or is he just a shit judge? I don't know. Yeah, Sky or I don't know, whoever.
I think it'd be that'd leak out. Someone would get wind of that and leak it straight out. Like someone like Haye would thrive off leaking that shit out.
But Haye wants to. Would he? Would he though? Because Haye wants to fight. Haye wants to fight Joshua, and he's fighting Bellew. He needs the Sky Machine as well. You know.
Yeah, but if he leaks that out, they're still going to want to fight him. I think. I don't know. I just think it's too. Because Hurd's a cunt. I just think surely someone would have got wind of that by now. Someone higher up, or Warren even got wind of it. Like, Hearn gets wind of anything the other promoters do, you know. If someone would have paid a judge off, someone's going to get wind of that. So probably he's just shit.
So you're saying shit. Stefan, mate, what's your thought? Is he just a bad judge, or is there something nefarious, you know?
No, I agree with Josh. I just think he's shit. I just think he's incompetent as a ref and a judge. So I don't think he's corrupt. Like Josh said, I think something would have come out, and I just think he's shit, to be honest.
I think I'm tempted to agree with you both, because I do think you have to be quite intelligent to get away with that level of corruption. But Ian John Lewis just isn't intelligent. You know, he's been in the game too long, and he's just an abysmal judge. Like I remember the one that really annoyed me is always the fact that up until the round that Mitchell was stopped against Linares, Ian John Lewis gave Mitchell every round up to that point. And there were some rounds where it was, you know, it just was, there was no argument that it was a close fight, but there were a couple of rounds where there was just no argument that Linares didn't win it. And he gave, we tweeted him at the time, and he responded and said, you know, and he gave an explanation which was, you know, from my angle, you know, from my side of the ring, it just looked like Mitchell was the one coming forward and putting on the pressure. And obviously everyone else watching could see that Linares was boxing off the back foot really nicely and kind of circling around him. But maybe Ian John Lewis just doesn't know what he's watching, and he's
a typical guy that we were talking about before with Broner. When he's throwing flashy combinations, he'll just eat that sort of crap up. So
yeah. But okay. Well, I think I'll agree with you and say he's just incompetent rather than corrupt.
100%.
So we'll just go on to that next fight. What do you think of Ray Vargas? Were you impressed? I think I'd seen him once before in a sort of a fight where it was a very sort of quick knockout. I did think there was value in betting the points win. I think that was 2-1, and everyone was betting on Vargas to stop him. And I thought the McDonald's. I haven't seen enough of Gavin McDonald though to really, you know, to be confident that he'd go the 12. But you know, he looked a bit like Jamie. Good engine. Fought the same all 12 rounds at the same pace. He was just out skilled. Yeah. Would you like to see Vargas again? What did you think of him, Stefan, mate? Do you want to jump in?
Yeah. I was impressed with Vargas. I thought he looked good. I think he's definitely a good world champ. McDonald was there to his depth. I think I gave him about 1 round, possibly 2 at a push. But yeah,
watching it quite drunk, I think I gave McDonald 2 rounds, but then I thought, do you know what? He could easily have lost all 12. And the 114 card was just absolutely horrible.
Paul Smith on comms, I think he had about 3 10 rounds.
I've never seen a Sky fight where they haven't had at least 1 even round, unless it's a case of like, you know, the home guy getting a 3rd round knockout or something like that. You know, they give even rounds in every single fight. It's just it's ridiculous. I don't know why you're allowed to give an even round. You shouldn't be allowed to do it.
Calm down, Brian.
What did you say, mate? Sorry.
Calm down, Brian.
Yeah, it just annoys me because I mean the only time I score even rounds is if both guys get knocked down. Do you know what I mean? And then it's a 9-9. But that's the only time it should ever happen.
I'm looking. Guys winning around. Yeah.
I mean, it's just so rare that guys actually have an even amount of success in a round. It's like it's once in 1,000 fights.
They used to show it on HBO before the fights, didn't they? What people scored a fight off, and then what's he called? Go through it with you, Harold. What's he called? And he'd do that stupid voice he's got, and he'd go through like these are the rules of the fights.
Yeah,
they'd say ring general shit. There's like Yeah, so it's not like people just think like, oh, it's punching, that's it. And more than 10 punches, no one can win a round or something like that. But there's more to scoring than that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've talked about this. I've talked about this quite a lot on the pod, and I'm, by no means a great judge, but quite a lot of people genuinely don't know the criteria for judging a fight, and they will do it based on things that shouldn't be taken into consideration.
Crowd noise.
But look, it is easy to be swayed by huge cheers every time one guy punches, and that's just it's a human. It's a sort of default human reaction for 90% of people. The same way, if I come to London from Venezuela and Eddie Hearn puts me up in a 5-star hotel and checks in on me and is really nice, it's human kind of default behaviour that you're gonna want Hearn to do well at the end of the week when it comes to fight night.
That is weird, man. That is like Man United putting up like a ref in fights. I don't know if that's what happens. That might happen. I'm not like.
Well, obviously Hearn wouldn't appoint the ref, but I think in football, like you say, it's all done via the neutral bodies. FIFA would appoint the World Cup final referee. It wouldn't be done by like the Spanish FA. And they wouldn't be able to.
Sure, they stay in like a FIFA hotel. They wouldn't stay in the same hotel as, let's say, England, would they? And England wouldn't put them up.
No, and you wouldn't have I don't know, the manager of England sort of having a meal with them the night before or texting them or whatever it is. Whereas boxing's kind of the Wild West, and you do get that.
Weirdest sport in the world at times.
Yeah, no, it really is. But it's human nature that if you spend a week with someone being really nice to you, 99% of people are going to want to kind of reciprocate that. 100%. And if it means that in a close round, Gavin McDonald gets it rather than Vargas, that's kind of human nature. And I guess it's a promoting skill to be able to do that and not have to rely on corruption. Because like we say, if Hearn was actually paying guys off, someone we'd have heard about it by now. I think it's a case of Hearn is a very
indirectly.
Well, maybe, but I think it's a case of him just being a very charismatic and sort of nice guy. I've absolutely no doubt if I was in a bar talking to Hearn, I would probably come away from it thinking, oh, he's quite a nice guy, really, even though I know how much he lies and how much he kind of twists the truth. He's just quite a nice guy and quite affable.
Would you?
Yeah, I think so. I think he'd probably make a few jokes and he'd be nice to you, wouldn't he? He wouldn't be an arsehole.
He's a bit of a hipster, though, isn't he? He's a bit like, I think he was a bit like trying to be too cool for school kind of thing.
Maybe, but I don't think he'd be an arsehole to you, directly.
I know, he probably wouldn't like, exactly, probably indirectly again, he'd probably make snide jokes behind your back or something, so.
Yeah, well, yeah, he probably would, but to your face, he'd probably be quite nice, and you'd probably come away from it thinking, do you know what? He's actually all right. I want to hate him, but he was actually quite nice. That's just my, I've never met him. I probably never will. That's just my perception of it. But right, Stefan, sorry, mate, we're drowning you out. But you get the last question from the weekend's fights. If you're Luke Campbell's promoter, where'd you go next with him? What's the fight you think he should take next?
I think they should try and get the Mendy rematch. If not, they need to go the IBF route. I know he's already ranked with the WBC and IBF, but Easter June is far more beatable than Mikey Garcia. So I think they need to go that route instead.
Do we think he has to travel either way? I can't see them getting Easter Junior over to the UK. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think he has to travel either way. But against Garcia, he's going to get iced. I mean, against Easter Junior, I still think Easter Junior will beat him, but he's definitely more winnable than Mikey Garcia. Yeah,
Campbell beating Robert Easter, it wouldn't shock me. I'd probably be slightly surprised, but it wouldn't shock me. Whereas Campbell beating Mikey Garcia would really shock me. That would be a massive upset. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Campbell would beat Yvan Mendy in a rematch if they fought again. But I would want Mendy to win just for all the excuses that Campbell's been coming out with since he lost.
It has to come next, doesn't it? The Mendy rematch. I mean, why it didn't happen 9 months ago?
Yeah, I think it's probably a case of Mendy winning the first fight and now just wanting too much money for the rematch. It's the only reason I can think of that it wouldn't happen. Campbell.
I'm gonna look him up because I'm not sure how hasn't really fought. I think he might have only fought once since the Campbell fight.
Yeah, I think they're like a one-of-the-mill fight.
No, sorry, he has fought 3 times. Every single one has been in France for various international belts and things like that. They've all been against complete no-hopers, basically.
That was a good fight, though, that was a good fight, Campbell Mendy.
It was, and people act like Campbell got schooled, but it was a pretty close. I mean, Mendy won, but it was a close fight. I'd say it was a
close-ish.
7-5 with a knockdown.
It should have never been a split, I don't think. I think, again, that's why Campbell would definitely win the rematch, in my opinion. Because, I mean, the first fight, I think I had it about 8-4 Mendy. I thought it was a clear win, and even that was a split. So.
Yeah. I think Mendy definitely won, but it was a competitive, close fight.
Yeah.
That was another card that Hurd just looked out on, where all the fights were absolute classic. Well, not classics, but they were good fights, and everyone was like, that was a great card, but some of them it shouldn't have been great fights. He just looked out again.
Yeah, I can remember.
Showtime had about an 18-month run of doing that as well, where they kept making these wank mismatches that turned into really good fights because the A side was nowhere near as good as they expected. And it's one of those things where the promoter will always take credit if they accidentally make a good fight. But if a fight is accidentally bad, if let's say Hearn makes Joshua against Haye and it's an absolute stinker, I wouldn't criticize Hearn for that because he was trying to make a good fight. Do you know what I mean? Whereas they want to they want the credit if they do a mismatch and it turns into a complete war, then I don't think they should get credit for that. And it really annoys me that fans kind of forgive them. But we'll I don't want to rant too much. Don't want to rant too much about Hearn. But right, we'll go on to some news now. So we've got
just quickly.
Yeah. Go on, mate. Yeah.
I'll just very quickly. The Vargas thing. A lot of podcasts are like anti-matchroom guys and stuff, aren't they? So, and sometimes they're anti-UK fighters, but a lot of them are anti-matchroom. If one of the matchroom fighters had the spots on the back that Vargas had, absolutely kicking off big time. Everyone would be kicking off.
Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty suspicious when you have a back like that. But I mean, I don't know. He did the same testing that McDonald did, didn't he?
Yeah, but people were going mental. I don't know. I just think I feel like if I'm trying to think of a fighter that's, say, if Joshua had the spots on his back like that, people would be going fucking nuts.
People say it about Yuri Fury, even though he's had a skin condition since he was young, and people still.
I know he definitely was juicing though. They were definitely juicing.
Yeah, he served a drug ban.
Yeah, I know that.
They were juicing.
People saying that he's had that condition since he was about, as he had it since he got really young. I mean, he wanted to induce him back.
I don't know. I've not seen his medical records or anything. I don't know whether to believe it or not.
He has had a skin condition, but whether the medicine he took for the skin condition gave him other benefits, I think that's the question.
Yeah, it's true. It's fair point.
I'm not sure though. I haven't really kept up on that because they've been really secretive.
There's no suspicion that Berestein's got 2 fighters that have spots like that on them. No coincidence, sorry. He
has, and I think in Mexico it's a lot easier to get your hands on stuff like that in the gyms and all the rest of it. And it's a shame, but then again, I feel I'm reluctant to criticise too much because the UK testing is so bad that we're hypocrites if we criticise.
With Marquez is he was like getting sick of just Pacquiao and Floyd juicing out the fucking balls. So I'm gonna get on it as well.
Yeah, well, I think Marquez. You just have to. I always say with stuff like this, people say, "Oh, he didn't fail a test," and if they don't fail a test, you can't say anything. I think the problem is it's very easy to avoid tests, and it's very easy to avoid the type of testing that will catch you. And therefore, I always say it's a bit like if you're accused of robbing a store and then you don't show up in court and you say, well, I'm not guilty because I never showed up to court, so you can't find me guilty. And then people say, well, he's not guilty, even though the only reason is because
it's no coincidence that all these people were suspicious of. I've got the biggest merchandising deals. It's no coincidence at all. Look at Usain Bolt. Every single person who's broke the record in the last 10 years has been caught. Yusafa Powell, Gay, have all been caught for drugs, but he hasn't. That's no coincidence at all. It's because he's got a deal with Puma, he's got a deal with Virgin, and there's too much money in him for it to come out. Mo Farah's the same. I think she's juicing up the balls as well.
Yeah, I think we're very naive if we think that there isn't kind of institutional complicity in it, and promoters, sponsors, advertisers, they don't know that certain things are going on. They must do, because it's always gone on. Like you say, every other sprint has been.
Exactly.
I think of the teams that Bolt, wasn't it something like of the sprint teams he's been a part of for Jamaica, only like 2 guys haven't been done for drugs,
it's impossible
or
to be
something
that
like
fast
that.
And not be, it's impossible to be that fast and not be on drugs. It's impossible. It is physically impossible. It's been proven, but oh well. People look over it because he smiles and stuff. Oh well. Same with Josh.
I think people don't want it to be true, so they just kind of ignore it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
also a lot of people genuinely just don't care enough. I mean, you can be morally outraged about it. I know lots of people who will watch Usain Bolt run one race every 4 years, and they genuinely don't really give a shit if he's on drugs. And their answer would probably be, "Well, everyone else is." So
it's
what's
true.
The
they tried to give the Tour de France. That what's he called? The guy got caught for cheating.
Armstrong.
Armstrong. Yeah, they tried to give to a second place, and then they found out second place was on drugs, and then they tried to give it to third place, and so on and so on. So everyone's doing it. So.
And if you look at the teams who were winning back in the late 90s, you'll get a team of 12 where all 12 of them have subsequently failed a drugs test at one stage. And you just think, well, you're very stupid if you don't think that there's kind of there's like an organizational element to it. It's not just Lance Armstrong sneaking off with a syringe at midnight. It's all organized at the top level, and we'll see.
But then I'm trying to take some moral high ground.
Eventually.
I'm trying to take some moral high ground here, but then I want Haye to beat Bellew, so I can't really take any more high ground on steroids.
Yeah, I don't know about steroids for either of them guys. I haven't really read up on it.
Definitely, surely.
Well, I think most top fighters are taking stuff.
Probably.
I think you have to assume that. But
yeah.
Right, we'll get on to Haye and Bellew soon. Just very quickly, skip over some news stories past few days. Stefan, mate. So again, we're going to do the news story in the form of a question. Is Andre Ward in delaying the rematch to be on his terms? Or do you think that he's kind of got a moral obligation to give Kovalev a rematch as quickly as possible?
Yeah, I think there's a moral obligation there. I mean, Kovalev gave him the fight, so I think, and the fact that the thing is, Ward should want the rematch. The fact that it was controversial, that no one's really given him that much credit. He should think, let's get it on again. I'll win the second fight clear, and then I'll get the full credit. Plus, he'll make good money from it. I'll just.
So you don't think as the champion, he's got the right to kind of do it on his terms?
Yeah, to an extent. It works both ways. I still think he should. The rematch he's taking, I think they should have got it sorted by now. I can understand where he's coming from. He's the champ. He's won the first fight, but no, I still think there's a moral obligation to give Kovalev the rematch as soon as. Plus,
they're saying
there's a rematch clause as well, isn't there?
There is a rematch clause, and I think they're saying it's going to happen in June. They're just kind of negotiating the finer points. I think June is okay for me. I think that's fine. I wouldn't complain if it was June. I didn't want to see a rematch 6 weeks later or 10 weeks later. I think you should be able to kind of get a bit of perspective on the first fight, and it's always better if they wait about 9 months and then have a rematch. I think that's always the best time. So I've got no issue with June. Which is what's being talked about. Right, Josh, mate, next question for you. Pacquiao versus Khan, will it happen? Simple question. Do you think it will happen? And if it happens, where will it happen? Which country?
Lads said don't really care, or Is that not an answer?
Well, yeah. Well, no, you can, but I mean, where do you think it?
Will it
where
happen?
do you think it'll happen then? If you don't care about if it happens.
I'd like to see it in the UAE just to see what they can come up with in terms of like, you know.
Would you go and
merchandising
would you
all
go and would you go and see it if it was in the UK?
that. No.
No, you wouldn't want to see Pacquiao.
No. I would have liked to see Pacquiao about 5 years ago, probably, but not this one now. No.
I think I'd probably go.
He's past it.
Yeah, I'd like to. I mean, unless it was, you know, if it was in London, I'd definitely try and go. I'd like. He's the sort of guy.
I know it's not the same as. It's nowhere near the same as saying, "Oh, if Roy Jones come and fought over here, would you watch him?" Yeah, some people debate he's number one at welterweight still. So, but I still think he's a shell of what he was, though.
He is number one at welterweight.
Well,
definitely
he is. Yeah, he is. Yeah. But he's still a shell of himself, what he was.
Probably. That kind of leads us on to the next question nicely. Stefan, mate, one for you. Hurd has famously said in the last few days that Pacquiao's an easier fight than Spence. So my question is, who would you pick to win, Pacquiao or Spence, if they fought each other next?
It's a tough one at the minute. I'd have a better idea after Spence fights Brook. But yeah, I mean, at the minute, might be a bit controversial, but I'd back Spence to win.
See, I think I'd go for Pacquiao in that one, just because I think there's nothing Spence does that he hasn't seen, and obviously it'll be a huge step up for Spence. But yeah,
the fact that Spence will probably have about 20 pounds on him, probably by the time they get in the ring.
He'd never have seen anyone with that kind of speed, though.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Manny's still got the speed. I think it's either be a Spence stoppage or Manny UD, but I don't know. I probably would lean. I'd still lean with a Spence stoppage at this point.
It is a good fight, though, and it made me think, because Hearn sort of said it, and everyone went, "Oh yeah, I see what you mean." You know, Spence is a really tough fight, and then I thought, I wonder who I'd pick if they actually fought each other, because I think Pacquiao's been hugely underrated for the last few years, and people have said ever since Marquez, he's finished, he's done. He's not. He's still the best. He's still the best in the world in his division.
I mean, Timothy Bradley's probably. I mean, if you just go off resume, Bradley's probably second best welterweight, and that was his last fight, wasn't it? Beating Bradley.
I think Bradley is well past his best now, but equally, Pacquiao really dominated him, and that's a.
Who has Bradley actually fought though? What is his resume? All that Bradley. Take the Pacquiao fights out of it.
Bradley's a Hall of Famer, definitely.
Do you think?
He's got a fantastic resume.
Go on.
Let me get it up now. He beat an undefeated Devin Alexander, absolute prime Alexander. He came over here and
that's a good win.
Completely outclassed Junior Witter, and that was no. I'm not saying Witter's an elite fighter or anything.
But hindsight from him.
Bradley didn't scrape a decision. He completely dominated him. Bradley he obviously beat a prime Provodnikov, gutted out a win there.
That was a close fight. That was a real close fight. That could have gone either way. That fight. That was. It
was a close fight, but Bradley won, I think. He beat a prime Lamont Peterson. He beat a prime Abregu. He obviously I'll tell you, the best win on his resume is he beat Marquez, and he did beat Marquez.
Yeah, but that was a shot market. It wasn't a shot. He's past his.
Coming off the Pacquiao win.
Yeah.
He absolutely schooled Vargas, and we know that Vargas is a good fighter. And he absolutely schooled Chavez as well. And Chavez is obviously, I know that was a draw, but Bradley won 10 rounds of that fight. And then he knocked out Rios. And again, I know Rios is way past his best, but a knockout. He also schooled Kendall Holt, again, a prime Kendall Holt. And Kendall Holt was a good fighter back then. He beat him comfortably. Bradley's a Hall of Famer, I think.
He had a couple of years where he just went a bit quiet, but I suppose I'm being a bit too harsh on him.
No, I think Bradley's one of the best of his era at that weight, I think. But I agree that he's past his best now. I do agree.
He was the ultimate. Can do not one thing great, but everything okay, wasn't he? He was like the ultimate guy for that.
Yeah, he didn't really have a weakness apart from, I guess, a lack of power, maybe, but he kind of made up for it.
See, when you were talking about Spence and Pacquiao, though.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think Spence would probably wipe him out. I don't think Pacquiao has the power to keep Spence off anymore.
I don't know. Well, Pacquiao's still, knocking down and hurting guys. I mean,
I think that's when people wait for Pacquiao will just school you. But if you literally bull rush him like Bradley did in the second fight, and obviously Bradley lost that fight pretty convincingly, but he gave him trouble. He definitely gave him trouble in the fight where he was kind of, throwing weird punches from weird angles. And
yeah, he did. He caught him a few times.
We'll have the angles on him, but I think Spence will have the angles on him, but
maybe. But I mean, people say Spence destroyed Algieri, but Pacquiao destroyed Algieri as well.
True.
And that was a younger, better Algieri. So if you look at what Spence has achieved, Pacquiao's done all that in recent years as well. Well, anyway, good fight. It'll never happen, but it's a good fight. A fight that will happen and is a very good fight is Tommy Langford against Kurt Zidze, which is happening at the end of April, I think, which is going to be for the interim WBO belt at middleweight. Kurt Zidze's been mandatory for he's been mandatory for, I think, the WBO for about the last 6 months, which Saunders has. Saunders has now said that he's got some mega fight, which means he can't defend it or whatever. People are saying that might be against Golovkin in the summer. And Kurt Zidze is being given a shot at the interim, coming off a huge win over Antoine Douglas, potentially a sort of career-changing win for Douglas, who was quite a hot prospect coming into that. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's absolutely brutal. He completely wipes him out over 10 rounds to the point where Douglas is just lying completely exhausted, covered in blood on the ropes. Kurt Zidze's tiny. I think he's about 5'10", but he's built like Mike Tyson. And Langford will have probably about, I think Langford's like 6'1", isn't he, or something? He's quite tall, quite a rangy guy. Good fight, though. Proper clash of styles. The guy jabbing at range against the pure pressure fighter. Have you seen Kurt Zidze before, either of you guys? And, do you think, I think this is a tough fight for Langford, and I think I'm going to pick Kurt Zidze to probably stop him late.
Langford's an Albion guy, isn't he, Stefan?
Yeah, you should. I've seen him a few times up the Albion. Yeah, he's a nice bloke. But unfortunately, I think he loses this.
Yeah, I agree with you. I like the fight though, and it's
it's a good fight. I mean, Castile's day, and I think he's like 5'4".
He's tiny. No, he's like 5'7" or something. He's absolutely tiny for a middleweight.
I think he's even smaller than that. I think he's really small.
Possibly, but he's a proper Mike Tyson, throwing big hooks on the inside and all the rest.
Yeah, Douglas, he was impressive, and I mean the thing with Langford is he's not hard to hit. He'll get to the centre of the ring and engage, and I just think that's a recipe for disaster. Really,
he's got nothing to lose against Langford, has he? Whereas when it was Eubank and Saunders, Langford was a bit of a who needs him kind of thing, because he's a half decent fighter who's due for one of those two guys, I guess.
Yeah, and look,
we're never going to fight him.
It's a tough. It will be a very good win for either guy, I think. If Langford wins, I'll be very impressed.
Wins,
I think it's a very good win. Yeah. But yeah, like you say, he's a nice guy, Langford. He's kind of seems to be happy enough to fight anyone. So I wish him the best, but I do think this on styles. I think this is tough for him.
Yeah, I think Langford is. I think he's limited. I don't think he's anything more than British level, to be honest. But hopefully he proves me wrong and can get a good win against Kurt Zidze. So. But yeah, with Billy Joe, I mean, he's got to have a big fight lined up. He's got to have to not take this mandatory.
Well, he's said he has, and obviously the WBO believe him because they've given him permission. But I've got no idea who he could be fighting. There's been loads of rumours that he's going to be fighting Golovkin in Kazakhstan in the summer. But I won't believe it until I see it. Basically, I still think Saunders kind of is doing anything he can to to avoid that. I was amazed they didn't make the Canelo fight. I thought that was a guarantee to be made. He could go to Texas or something and sell his belt and not get a career changing beating. I think they made a big mistake not taking that fight.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should have took that. But the thing is, with the big announcement, Billy Joe said that about a month ago, 2 months ago. He said he was announcing a big fight next week, and nothing since. So you just don't know what to believe. Like whether he's got a big fight.
Could he go 12 with Golovkin?
No,
Is it
I
possible?
don't.
Do you give him a chance or not? Not a chance of winning, a chance of going 12.
No, I rate him highly, but I just don't think he's got the power to keep Golovkin off him. And Billy Joe showed a good chin. You know, he's tough, but I don't think he'd go 12. Not with Golovkin.
He is tough, and I don't think anyone goes 12 with him in the division at all.
Murray nearly did it. Murray shit.
He did, but equally he was just fighting to survive for about 5 rounds, right?
That's what Saunders would do, though, probably.
I don't think Saunders is that kind of. I think Saunders would try and move, and I just think he cuts the ring off too well, Golovkin. You know.
I think Lara goes 12 with him, but I don't know. People have
maybe
saying that.
Maybe I do think that's possibly.
But we'll see. Weird one with Saunders, though. Weird one.
It is, and I hope he can. Like you say, I think Saunders, as you said, Stefan. I had a bit of time for him. I thought he came up the right way. He fought the right way to get to world level. You know, he fought about 3 or 4 undefeated guys. He won the British properly. He won the European properly. And then he got to world level and kind of stalled. And, you know, for whatever reason, I'm not entirely sure why, but it's a shame. He seems to have lost all the momentum. And it may be a case of,
I guess, as well.
Yeah, possibly.
Lost all the motivation.
And it could be a case of
he knows he can't beat
Golovkin.
It's clearly a mental thing that he knows he can't beat Golovkin. So.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he'd go into that fight knowing a bit of a Bellew Stevenson situation, knowing that he was going to get knocked out. I think.
Yeah.
And that brings us on very, very nicely to the preview of the weekend. We've got a few questions from listeners. Just give me a second to get them up. I'll just see if any of these are relevant to the fights. I think most of them are to do with Haye and Bellew and that. Right. Okay, now the first question, I'll go to you, Josh, on this one. Is it possible that Haye is simply not ready to fight anyone who can punch back because he's been so inactive and fighting such poor opposition? Do you think there's a chance he might be in for a bit of a shock when Bellew actually tries to hit him back?
If it was against like a pressure fighter, yeah. In that, has he? He's a weird fighter, Bellew. He's not as bad as Wilder, but he's kind of in a similar. He thinks he's a boxer, but he's not. If that makes any sense. He kind of waits for guys way too long, Bellew. So I think he'll give Haye too much time to land the shot. If he kind of tried to smother his work, like a Chino would, obviously not a heavyweight, but like a Chisora or something like that. If Chisora fought Haye now, he'd give him a lot better fight than he did. Even though those rounds were competitive against Chisora, but no, Bellew waits too long to punch, and if you give Haye time, he'll pick him apart. So no.
I think it's going to come down to hand speed, won't it? They'll both try and time each other, and we know that Haye has
exactly.
Even if my worry with this fight is Haye's gas tank, which is why I've been trying to pick my bet very carefully in terms of how many rounds it will go. Just because I feel like Haye will either try and conserve his energy because he knows that he's got limited stamina fighting at 230 or whatever he's going to weigh in at, much heavier than he was before. I think he'll either try and conserve his energy, which I think will be a big mistake, or he will try and just blitz Bellew in kind of 3 rounds, knowing that once it goes past 5, he will slow down. And I think Bellew will try and keep the fight away, keep the fight at distance, and try and tire Haye out. But I don't think he's got the footwork or the jab, really, to be able to keep Haye away for long enough. Stefan, mate, how do you see it going? And do you think David Haye is the hardest hitting heavyweight at the moment?
I think David Haye will win definitely inside 6. I'd say probably about 3rd round KO. Just think it's the mismatch. I think it's too hard. He's just
the odds on, mate. The odds on the odds on the fight. This is phenomenal odds, and I'm going to be betting it tomorrow. It's the fight to go under 5.5 rounds. Sorry, under 5.5. So the fight to end before the midpoint of the 6th round are 3 to 4, and that's to end in either direction. I think that's so. If you bet 200 quid or whatever, you'll be getting what 370 back, something like that. That's phenomenal odds. And I was saying earlier on Twitter that I keep second guessing myself because I feel like the odds should be so much wider. And maybe people know something that I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like, why isn't Bellew like 20 to 1? Why is he 5 to 1? But I think it's just a case of the Sky hype machine. Do you agree, Josh?
Yeah, probably. But I think that Hurd needs this to be a good fight to set up the Joshua Klitschko thing. If this is the dud of a fight, imagine that. Imagine it. What are the odds to actually for the fight to go 12, regardless who wins?
Oh, huge, like 12 to 1 or something like that.
Is that it? I thought it'd be more than that. I thought it'd be even more than that. But imagine it's like a dud and like it goes 12 and Haye just wins a decision. That's bad for both. That's bad for her.
Oh, no, 7 to 2, mate. 7 to 2 to go the difference, to go the distance, which I think is it's very short.
That's ridiculous. So what is it not to go the distance then? Like 1 to 3 or something?
2 to 9, which again is
that's mad. If you have millions, that's easy money.
You put $1,000 on that, you get 250 quid back or whatever. That's
so and that's regardless of whether Bellew just lands some ridiculous like shot that sends him to hell. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, Bellew can punch, and Haye has been hurt many times, and he's been down many times, amateurs and pros. If Bellew lands the shot he landed on Makabu, I think Haye could get knocked out in one punch.
I'm not sure.
I just don't think he'll be able to set it up. Haye can definitely be hurt. Definitely, it's happened before.
Makabu was a small cruiserweight, though. He was a beefed up cruiserweight, really.
Well, he was, but I mean, Haye has been hurt and knocked down and badly wobbled at cruiserweight
years ago, though. Off Carl the Cat, legend.
No. But the Thompson fight wasn't. That was more him being exhausted. I mean, he's been what's his name? Yeah. Put him down very heavily. The French guy that he fought in Paris, Mormet put him down very heavily. I'm gonna get some of these up because I was having a chat on one of the forums earlier.
That was a good fight.
Lalenga Mock put Haye down very heavily, and that Lalenga Mock had a KO percentage of less than 25%. He put Haye down very heavily. Mormet put him down, like we said. Monty Barrett put him down. Thompson obviously put him down when he was exhausted. I think that's a slightly different example. And then when we're going through amateurs now. Who are we looking at? Orlandia Solis dropped Haye and knocked him out in the amateurs with headgear on. Not a particularly big heavyweight either, although he did get very fat. Bellew is the same size as Haye in terms of height and kind of arm length, and he can punch a bit. I don't think he's the biggest puncher in the world like he claims, but he definitely can punch a little bit. I've thought all along that this fight, if Haye looks a bit bad and a bit sluggish and a bit sloppy, they'll make Joshua straight away. If Haye destroys Bellew, I think the Joshua fight gets pushed back to maybe next year. Do you guys agree with that?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
That's a big fight, though, Josh. If Haye looks good, it's a big fight.
No, it's a huge fight, but it's still a huge fight.
Makes so much money.
Yeah, but it's still a huge fight next year, and next year Haye will be almost 38. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
If this fight was Haye versus Joshua on Saturday, who would you be picking to win?
I don't want to say my answer because I hate him, but I'd go with Joshua. I hate him.
I think it's a toss-up, that one, at the moment.
Yeah, I'll go with Joshua as well. I just think there's a lot of question marks around Haye, which won't matter in this fight, but if he was fighting Asia, I think I'd be inclined to choose Joshua. If Haye looks good knocking out Bellew, then yeah, I'd give him a great chance against Joshua if they fight next.
Can we talk about the build-up?
But there again, Joshua.
Sorry, Stefan, just finish off, mate. You went muffled there.
Yeah, but Josh have still got to beat Klitschko. I mean, that's no gimme either. So yeah, but hopefully if they both win, both look good. Hopefully the fight can happen. It's be a huge fight.
Do you know what? Weirdly enough, the Haye Klitschko rematch would actually be really interesting if that was happening next. Do you know what I mean? Because they're both kind of diminished from what they were before. I'm not.
Jesus, that was a bad fight though. Yeah, that was a terrible. I watched it the other day again, and that was really bad.
It was a horrible fight, but I would never criticize Haymaker Promotions for making it. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously it was set up to be a really good fight, and it just turned into a stinker. I don't think anyone.
Yeah, no one.
Yeah,
it's true. No one slags Klitschko for that either. When it's him who's had the boring fights in the past. Go a pass for that fight being boring when it was probably his fault. He never puts on the gas, does he? So.
I'll tell you what. Let's quickly do the. No, actually, do the build up now. If you've got anything to say about the build up, like I said earlier, I've been trying really hard to not watch any of the videos or the interviews or the stupid press conferences, and just I'm going to look at the weigh-in tomorrow. I'm going to see what Bellew looks like, and then I'm going to put my bet on the amount of rounds I think it will go based on that. I'm not watching any of the mind games or any nonsense. So. What's been going on, and what are your thoughts on it? Do you go first, Josh?
Right, I'm not going. I'm the same as you. I wouldn't never go off the build up to say someone's going to win because of the build up or anything. Takeaway I've got from the build up is there was who's this guy that to be fair, they said it was quite funny for once. iPhone put up the who the fuck is that guy thing on a video. It's like. Hayes promoter now. So I don't even know what he is. He's like he's
Haymaker, isn't he? He's self-promoted, no?
No, but he's got a guy who's like kind of introducing him now today at the press conference. He's an Asian guy. I don't know. I don't have a clue what his name is.
No, but anyway, I don't know, mate. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Anyway, he made a good point today that what is this thing that Bellew's doing now where he's just become this anti-Joshua stay humble guy when he's just never, ever been that. It's weird. He's like the typical football hooligan. Oh, I'd never hurt anyone outside the ring when you can tell he's had like the ring.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I think I learned a long time ago that I just don't pay attention to what Bellew says. Bellew can be very insightful and a very nice guy at certain times, and then he could be the most gobby arsehole you can, like you said, football hooligan you can imagine. He really does. He's got a million different masks for different occasions, and
it's yeah, but now he's got this like moral high ground thing that he's taking. How can he take a moral high ground over anyone? I just don't see how he can.
I think he's trying to wind Haye up, isn't he? He's tried getting in his face and it hasn't worked. But I think also he's trying to psych himself up. Do you know what I mean? Because I think Bellew, you know how with Makabu he spent weeks. Makabu wasn't really talking trash, but Bellew spent weeks just psyching himself up in every interview. You could see that he was saying, he was repeating to himself over and over again, look, this is the biggest night of your life. This is the one chance et cetera, et cetera. And it obviously worked for him. He was completely pumped up and he was ready. He has to be doing something similar this week because as cynical as the fans are, and I certainly am at times, I think Bellew will go into the ring thinking, I could do this. And then he'll very quickly realise, no, I can't. Whereas a lot of people are saying Bellew is taking the money and he will go down as soon as he's hit, and then he'll get out of there with the big bag of cash.
They're both taking the money, aren't they? They're both taking the money. But what I meant was, like, it's just crazy how like the newspapers have span it that Bellew's just this total nice guy now. It's mental.
Well, this is why I don't read the build-up, because it's just it's written by people who don't follow the sport. Do you know what I mean? Who don't have any idea what they're talking
sickening. About. It is sickening. Like they were talking about, hey, you obviously didn't watch the press conference. Literally, Bellew was saying, he kept going, mind your language. There's kids in our presence or something like that. There's children in our presence. And like 2 minutes later, what's he called? Derry Matthews got up there and he's like, what a fucking gobshite. It's just fucking... And then Bellew was laughing. Or someone else swears.
Yeah,
but as soon as Haye swore, he was like, there's children over there. Don't swear. It's mental.
He's just trying to wind Haye up, isn't he? He knows that he's contradicting himself every... This is why... Like, it's going to sound really rude, but I really don't want to talk about that sort of stuff, because it's like playground playground sort of slanging matches.
Yeah,
I just don't care at all. All I care about is how they look at the weigh-in and maybe the implications of a win for each guy. I think, like you said, it's a cash in.
By watching it.
I've sort of been trying to get the wording down for this, but I think it's potentially a cash out for Bellew, whereas it's a cash in for Haye, if that makes sense. He is cashing in order to get the Joshua fight.
It's free money for Haye.
But the end goal with Haye is to get Joshua, and that is a cash out, right? But I think with Bellew, this is his Joshua fight, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean by that? This is the most money he will ever make, unless Bellew somehow beats Haye, in which case I think Bellew would move heaven and earth to get the Joshua fight, knowing that he would.
How
likely,
would they sell that fight though?
I don't know. Well, they'd sell it off the fact that he'd beaten Haye, he'd knocked Haye out, right?
Yeah, but they need they need a rivalry, Matchroom. They always need like a rivalry side of it.
Oh no, it would be about the Rocky story and all that. Oh, they could sell that, no problem.
Do you think Bellew would just turn total rogue again, and just start smashing stuff up and saying, "Oh, I'm a Scouser again now. I'll put my North Face jacket back."
Yeah, or he'd be going on about how
he'll probably do that.
How he's got nothing to lose and all this sort of, and he's a dangerous sort of man in a corner or whatever it is. All the same. He said all the same shit.
Christ.
Said all the same stuff.
Now I don't want him to win even more. Now you've just explained that fight could happen now, but I don't want it. I don't want it to happen even more. Jesus. It's frightening.
Look, Bellew wants. He can see there's potentially. There's potentially maybe £5 million if he gets those two fights to be made, and that's more than he will have ever dreamed he could make in his career. So I can understand why he wants it. Stefan, mate. Let's do proper predictions then. I'm going to say Haye will knock him out. I think it's going to be in about. I'm going to say maybe three or four rounds. Fourth round, I'll go for something like that.
Yeah, I'll go for third round.
And Josh, mate, what are you going for?
I'll go one.
First round.
I don't want to be ultra casual like Mike Tyson. Oh, he's going to smash him inside a round, but I think Macho was saying that if he wants the Joshua fight and make it as hyped as anything, a 1 round highlight reel is gonna build that fight even more.
I think well, potentially, but I think Haye might play it safe for the first round and just kind of be a little bit cautious.
Yeah.
But look, mate, it's usually if you've got a first round KO in the Eggington Malignaggi fight, for example, is about 50-1. For Haye against Bellew, I think it's 12-1. So obviously a lot of people
8-1, 8-1.
8-1. There you go. So a lot of people are agreeing with you that it could happen. I think if Haye wanted to knock him out in a round, I think he could definitely.
Oh, he could definitely. It's literally what round he picks again. He said it on an iFilm interview the other day. He got in trouble for the Harrison thing because he obviously had a lot of money on the third round, and he said it in the post-fight interview. So
I totally agree. I think he can choose when the fight ends.
There shouldn't be anything wrong with that, though. That's where bookies are bookies are ridiculous, because if a fighter's that good to pick what round he knocks someone out in, that's bets, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I think not betting on your own stuff is a bit unethical, because then you can deliberately lose.
Though, because you're punching each other in the face. So
but then why doesn't Haye put £1 million? But why doesn't Haye put £1 million on Bellew winning a decision and then deliberately lose every round? Do you know what I mean?
All right, there should be a stipulation where you can only bet on yourself. Can they perform even better? What's wrong with that? I don't know. But whatever. Yeah, it's a hard one.
The whole purpose of betting is that you're not in control of the outcome. Whereas obviously, if Haye bets on himself, he's in control.
It doesn't matter if he bets on himself anyway. He can just tell his mates to do it, can he? So it doesn't matter. There's no way he can get back to him.
Well, he's probably saying to his mates right now, right, it's not going to go past this round or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
That idiot, what's he called? Do you know that the millionaire who's trying to be a boxer? The Asian guy, Joe Fournier, is he called or something?
Yeah.
He said he'll show us the betting slip. He's having 10 grand on a certain round. I don't know. Maybe a lump on that.
I think I'm going for, just to confirm to everyone before the odds, I think these odds will get narrower. Haye versus Bellew under 5.5 total rounds is 3-4. and that is, for a bet of 250 will return you 440 quid. That's basically printing money. But there is a part of me that thinks Haye will deliberately go above the line. Do you know what I mean? It wouldn't surprise me if Haye said, right, bet on the 8th round. That's when I'm going to knock him out. And
You're right. It's literally whatever round he wants to pick.
Yeah.
It's literally what round he wants to pick.
But if he really hates Bellew,
the only thing with
then
that
he'll
is,
knock
like
him
you said, it'd be funny. Well, it wouldn't be funny because I hate Bellew, but it would be quite funny if that backfired in his face and he tried to take it a few rounds, then got clobbered. And
then he gasses to shit like against Thompson or whatever. Yeah, I mean
that'd be funny. But
I watched the Thompson fight again.
Funny at the same time.
I watched the Thompson fight again today just to think, this is why I don't think Haye will want it to go too much past 4 rounds, just because I think he will be wary of gassing out, and it would just be so embarrassing if he did lose. Right, now moving on quickly to the undercard, and then we'll do Thurman Garcia. We've been going about an hour and 40. Okay, that's all right. Got about 20 minutes left. Davis against Matthews. It's another kind of fake grudge match. I don't think these two dislike each other at all. I'm not really buying it. I think this one might go the distance. Just purely, Matthews is totally shot. If he won, I'd be very surprised. But I don't think Davis has the power some people are saying he does. I bet on him to go the distance with Scarpa, for example, which was about 4-1 or something. I just thought, I don't think he's that big a puncher. And I think Matthews is kind of crafty enough to maybe go a few rounds. What do you guys think of this one? Do you have any interest? And most importantly, where do you want Davis to go next after this fight?
I think Davis is going to knock him out. I actually think he's a bit. He's obviously like his bravado is absolutely stupid. But I watched an interview with him the other day, and he came across half decent. I know there's a load of things saying people being racist to him for the Liverpool one, and he said no, I didn't hear anything. Even though Johnny Nelson said he heard someone call Davis a lucky man. So
really,
but yeah, I think it's a Johnny Nelson iFilm interview where he said he physically saw someone lucky man. But Davis himself said he didn't hear anything, and I suppose he could have just played it off as they were all being racially abusive to me. He could have played that card, but he didn't. So fair play to him for that. He came across all right in that interview. He's clearly trying to sell himself on this Broner thing, isn't he?
Yeah, and I think that's good.
Like a Broner.
I like it when there are bad guys in the sport. I hate it when everyone's got a kind of Joshua, whitewash persona of everything's sanitized and they never say anything controversial. I think if Davis wants to deliberately wind people up in order to sell his fights, that's great. I say go for it because it will put him in the spotlight. Yeah, I've got no problem with it at all. And I actually think it makes him more interesting as a fighter to watch. And it makes me more interested in, I know exactly what he's doing, but it makes me more interested in what he's fighting and, where his career's going.
I think he'll wipe Matthews out. But and that division's going to be weaker when Crawford moves up as well. He's
where would you
light welterweight, yeah.
Who would you I mean, Davis is ranked, fairly sort of unanimously inside the top 20 in the division now. Where would you like to see him go? I don't know, within his next 3 fights, who would you like to see him face? Because obviously we know he's not ready for a Crawford. Do you know the fight I wouldn't mind is someone like Provodnikov?
Go on.
Because I think Provodnikov's past his best, and I think Davis could outbox him, and I think that will be a really good.
Well, I don't know.
Good learning fight, I think.
I think Burns is an easier fight than Provodnikov.
Yeah, but
not right now, but in 3 fights time, 3-4 fights
Burns,
time.
Why would Burns fight him though? Burns could be fighting other champions and getting headlining in America.
Crawford's going to fight Burns, so I don't know. And they're both matchroom, aren't they? So
yeah, they're in the same.
I think I think Crawford will offer the winner of Indongo against Burns. I think Crawford will offer the winner of that a king's ransom to try and get them over to America or whatever. He will offer so much money to try and unify all the belts.
Yeah, but I know everyone's. It's easy to hate Davis at the moment because he is being a bit of a knob, but I think he could go half. I quite rate a few of his performances. He has a good punch selection, and so we'll see.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's a decent boxer. I actually think he's improving. Obviously, he's not. He's a bit overhyped because all matchroom fighters are. But do you agree, mate? Do you think Davis knocks him out, or are you not convinced he's that much of a puncher?
Yeah, I think Davis will stop Matthews, and I think he's a bit underrated. Not by obviously Matchroom and Sky because they overrate all the fighters, but in general, because obviously everyone hates him. I think he's a bit underrated because of it. I mean, I think he did okay against Scarpa, but he impressed me for the first 6 rounds, and he was just a bit one-paced. You know, he could have gone through the gears, and he kind of.
I felt like he wanted to get rounds, but maybe I'm being too generous to him. And the last one we'll talk about on this card is Eggington against Malignaggi, which actually is. I'm not going to say it's a good fight because it's not, but it's quite an interesting fight, just purely in terms of how much Eggington has. Maybe 2 or 3 years ago, Malignaggi would have quite easily outboxed him at the age of 35 or whatever. Whereas Eggington looked a bit better to me against Gavin. And I know it's only Frankie Gavin, but I thought that fight would go the distance. And Eggington obviously finished it in quite emphatic style. My question with Paulie is that he relied so much on his legs when he was younger, and his legs just aren't there anymore. And he's still got good reactions. He's still very good at kind of counter-punching and making the opponent miss. And Eggington obviously is quite a basic fighter. I just think without the legs, Eggington is going to put under too much pressure. And I think this could be a maybe 9th or 10th round stoppage, something, a late stoppage. I could see that happening. Who are you guys picking for this one? Josh, you go first.
Eggington, probably on points. I don't even think he has that much power. He kind of, Gavin was kind of leaning into the punches as well, which made him even heavier. But I think they're obviously Malignaggi. They're trying to mirror Skeet's style, aren't they? You think? Like a kind of boxer.
Well, they are, but Skeet moved a bit, and Skeet has legs, whereas Paulie at age 36 or whatever really doesn't have the legs to move around.
Yeah, but they'll probably sell it as he's beat a boxer, so we can put him back in with Skeet kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah, they'll definitely sell it that way. But obviously, it's not. It's a shell of Malignaggi rather than.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Rather than his.
Malignaggi in his prime would probably smash him. Yeah, he'd probably smash him.
Yeah, he'd definitely win a decision, 100%.
The Cotto Malignaggi would win. He'd have no chance. He'd win every round.
Yeah, he would. Prime Malignaggi beats a lot of guys. He was a very good fighter who's kind of become a bit underrated. But
I watch it all the time. There's just something about that fight. It was like a special. They did a show on it after, didn't they? It wasn't a great night show, was it? But it was something like that. They did a documentary kind of thing on it. And it was pretty cool. How he had a busted up face, but he kind of fought through it.
Yeah, it was a good fight, and you learned a lot about both guys, and that was the Cotto's prime as well, when he was really beating people up, and he kind of went, he started to lose a few, lose as much as he won from then on. But the other one that I love is, people know I hate Cotto, but the Quintana fight was a fantastic performance.
It's a good fight as well. Yeah, he's actually in some decent fights. The Judah fight's a good fight as well.
Yeah, he was on a good streak at that point, but that was 10 years ago. It was a long time.
True.
Right now, just to finish off, we've got a card from the States as well. The undercard has got Erickson Lubin in some showcase, which I'm not interested in. But you've got
same. He needs to be stepped up soon.
Yeah, I think he's getting Charlo next by the sounds of it, but we'll see.
See, I would have gone Trout. He'd smash Trout, but we'll see.
Well, I think he's mandatory maybe after this fight.
Right, fair
or
enough.
he's number one ranked, or I don't know. But anyway, forget about that one because it's really a tick over fight. On the undercard, we've got Andre Fonfara in his first fight after the knockout loss to Joe Smith last year. First round knockout, big shock. And he's fighting Chad Dawson, who's not really had a renaissance. Never really recovered since he lost to Stevenson, but he has had a couple of wins after losing to Carpentry about 18 months, 2 years ago. Josh, you said earlier you didn't really like this fight. I think this fight, obviously, look, this isn't an important fight. It doesn't really mean anything, but I actually think the matchmaking is quite good. And this is a good get well fight for both either guy. And it will be a decent win for either guy, I think. Bearing in mind, Dawson and Fonfara is coming off a bad knockout loss. So tell me why you don't like it.
Go on. No, I'll let Stefan go first. He was defending it before, wasn't he? I want to hear what you guys have to say about it first.
I just enjoy watching Fonfara's fights. I can't recall seeing him in a bad fight. He's got a good fan-friendly style. And he's so winnable for both guys. And, I mean, Dawson, since that loss to Carpenter, I mean, he's had 2 okay wins, but I don't think he's looked great. Obviously, Fonfara again stopped early by Joe Smith. I think it's a decent fight for both. Dawson's the more talented. I think going back a few years, I think he'd have beat Fonfara, but
prime
in his prime, he would have smashed him. Yeah, he would have smashed him.
Prime Dawson would win. He'd win 10 rounds or so.
Dawson kind of perfected that style. I remember there was that famous line, wasn't there? I think it was Lampley who said it against what was he called? Anyway, he was fighting someone, and Lampley said that Mayweather said that Dawson was the best technical boxer in the world. Probably like trolling, but
he was definitely up there for a while.
He kind of perfected that. He kind of leaned forward with obviously his left hand, and then came up with a right uppercut. And that was like basically the only 2 shots he had, but he kind of perfected that and like wiped everyone out with it. But yeah, I think he's a shell of himself. Not even a shell, more than that. Dust of himself. I think Fonfara wins that fight.
I think Fonfara wins, but I think it might go the distance. It's a 10-rounder, and I think Fonfara might be. He's quite a slow starter, and he's also coming off a knockout loss. I think he might want to get a few rounds in. Fonfara is 3-1 to win on points. I think that's a good bet. That's a great bet. I've stuck 20 quid on that. I think that's a good bet.
10-rounder as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's one of those bets where if you lose, it's kind of a shot anyway that it's just like it's worth it.
Well, look, I think if he knocks him out, it's because Dawson is totally finished. But funnily enough, Dawson's last fight against Cornelius White, who's a sort of a gatekeeper really in that division, I thought Dawson was totally done, and I picked White to knock him out, and I put some money on that. And then Dawson knocked him out and actually didn't look as bad as I thought. So I think I'm banking on Dawson being slightly better than people think, and Fonfara being a bit rusty because he's not fought for a year and he was knocked out and all the rest of it. And he's a very slow starter, Fonfara. It usually takes him 4 or 5 rounds to get anywhere, even against shitty opponents. I
suppose it's a bit like the Tarver versus Cunningham fight. I lumped on Cunningham big. I thought Cunningham was going to smash Tarver, and it ended up in a draw, didn't it, or something? A couple of years ago.
It ended up in a draw, and I was annoyed because I picked Tarver, and I thought Tarver won that fight. And it annoyed me that I think it was a draw, yeah.
I just thought Tarver was so out of shape that Cunningham was just outworking, but you might be right about Dawson. He might have like one good performance left in him.
Well, yeah, I'd be surprised if he won, but I don't think he's going to get absolutely destroyed like some people are saying. And look, I think it's a decent fight where it's reasonably competitive, which is all you can really ask for. It's a get-well fight that's quite competitive for Fonfara, and I think that's a good thing. Get-well fights are usually 50-1 knockover jobs. So I'm pleased that the other guy actually might have a small chance to win. I'm not picking him though, definitely not. Right, last one, guys. Thanks for bearing with us, listeners, and you two. We've done pretty well actually for time, less than 2 hours on a big week of fights.
I can talk all night.
Thurman Garcia. I've been going back and forth on this one for weeks. I have put a small bet on Garcia points at 4-1, just because I think it's good value. And Garcia has got decisions over guys like Thurman before. I was saying the other day, and this really isn't true for many fights, there is no outcome that would genuinely surprise me in this one. The only one is maybe if Thurman knocks Garcia out, just because I think Garcia's shown a really, really good chin in the past. Garcia catching Thurman wouldn't surprise me. Thurman's been hurt many times. Thurman outboxing him wouldn't surprise me. Garcia edging out a tough sort of close points win wouldn't surprise me either. What are you guys picking for a start? If you put a gun to my head, I would probably say Thurman points, but I've bet on Garcia points because I think that's where the value is at 4-1. Josh, who are you picking for this one?
I'm going with Thurman. I like Thurman. He's one of my favourite fighters. He's kind of a good boxer puncher. A tiny bit like Marquez back in the day.
What's the method, mate? Method is key with this one.
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me because I can't. I'm in between. I don't know. Garcia's chin's been okay, but I know he fought Matisse. But against who else was a monster puncher? You know. So we'll see. And I never thought Matisse landed too clean on him. Either.
No, but he landed a couple, and that was at a time when Matisse was literally like putting people in the mold when he was punching.
Speaking of bets, I earned a lot of money on that fight. I did a Mayweather on points, Mayweather unanimous decision versus Canelo, and a Garcia decision win double, and I earned a lot of money. I had a big bet on that.
Well, you're lying because it wasn't a unanimous decision.
Oh shit! No, it wasn't. I might have just had it points though, but I remember having a lot of money. Yeah. I remember winning a lot of money.
I believe you on points. If you bet the majority decision, you would have got like 25 to 1 or something. I'm only joking. I'm only joking. Yeah, I believe you.
I knew Garcia would outbox Matisse, but I'm picking Thurman. Probably points.
I think it will be. Is there any? Okay, I'll ask you what I just said earlier. Is there any outcome that would genuinely surprise you in this one? And don't say like, oh, Garcia knocking him out within 10 seconds, because obviously that's a surprise. But I mean, in terms of knockout or points, is there any outcome that would surprise you either way?
I know Thurman's been hurt, but I don't think he's ever been truly like, wobbled.
He was badly hurt. Well, mate, he was badly. Against Soto Carras in the first round. He was badly hurt. Badly hurt. And Carras is not a puncher. Garcia hits a lot harder than any of the guys who hurt them. Collazo, like you said, Stefan, Collazo hurt him badly to the body. He was running for about a minute after that, like solidly, stay on his feet. And Garcia hits a lot harder than those two guys. I do think if Garcia catches him, he can definitely hurt him. But it might be a case of, honestly, it could be a case of Thurman wins most of the rounds, but Garcia hurts him a few times and it ends up being really close,
Until I see Thurman get truly knocked out, though, I don't think I'd be dubious to say anyone's going to knock him out. But I don't think anything has shocked me, like you said. It is a close fight.
Sorry, Stefan, say again, mate.
Garcia could get a gift as well. He's had a couple.
Well, it's exactly my thinking. I was expecting maybe 2-1 on the Garcia decision, and I saw it was 4-1, and I thought, do you know what? Garcia's been in a lot of close fights, and he's got the nod every single time. And the judges obviously like something about his style. And I think if this is a 7-5 Thurman fight, Garcia could easily get the decision.
Yeah. Was that like the judges liking his style, or like you said, was that like kind of brown envelope job though?
Well, I think if we're not going conspiracy theory, I say it's a case of the judges just liking the way he fights. I mean,
I don't see how you can have him winning against Garcia against Herrera though.
Well, Herrera was the one where Herrera was the one where he definitely lost. That was a shocker. Peterson, I thought Peterson beat him, but it was close. Do you know what I mean? It was a 7-5.
That one, but the Herrera one, no judge can ever see that as a win. No,
if you look at the media, it usually tells you the truth, and the media count was something like 60 in favour of Herrera and like 5 to Garcia. It was an absolute landslide. There's basically no way, because there were so many clear Herrera rounds. I actually think that was kind of an 8-4, 9-3 type fight, and it was open scoring, wasn't it? The robbery was always coming. And I think it must have been a case of they just liked the fact that Garcia was throwing big punches and he was being aggressive.
But without being too sceptical, though, it is a good fight. It's two.
Yeah, it's a fantastic fight. The proper unification.
We like to moan though, but in a time when we don't get many good fights, it's a good fight. It's a real good fight.
No, I'm not moaning at all about this one. I think it's a great fight. It's not on pay-per-view. It's going to be on Box Nation. I'll be staying up for it, definitely.
Definitely.
I would say it's probably a 60-40, but no wider than that. I don't think anyone is saying with certainty, look, Garcia's definitely going to win or Thurman's definitely going to win. I think you can make really good arguments for both guys. It's a proper unification, like we said. It's 2 proper full titles on the line.
Definitely.
And hopefully, within 6 months, we could potentially have a unified, or maybe by the end of the year, we could have a unified champion with 3 of the 4 belts, which would be fantastic.
Hopefully, it'll be like like an absolute classic, and they just both go like left hook happy, right hand happy, and just like give us
the way I think it will go is Thurman will try and box. Garcia will hurt him a couple of times, but I think Thurman will be able to stack up the rounds with his boxing. And will win. If you put a gun to my head, I would go with maybe like an 8-4, 7-5 Thurman decision, something like that.
Same. Well, it's going to be a good one. I'm excited.
Yeah, it'll be great. And like we said, in an era when
it's like the first
every
one,
shit fight is on pay-per-view.
I won't be slouched on my couch watching it like De Gale and lied down, head on the pillow, kind of watching it. This one, I'll actually be sat, up straight, interested.
Yeah, it's a great fight, and I think quite a lot of people will be staying up for it. Stefan, mate, who are you picking? Sorry, if you said it, I missed it earlier.
Yeah, I'm Garcia is one of the fighters I'm always least confident of picking against, but yeah, I think Thurman on points. Just think he's the better boxer, bigger guy, more. So
we're all going Thurman points. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, like you said, I know no outcome would surprise me. It's a great fight, but I'd give the edge to Thurman. Just think he's yeah.
You know, it's a great fight when we could all make a good argument for Garcia knocking him out, and we could make a good argument for either guy winning on points. That's the sign of a really, really good fight when it genuinely splits opinion.
It's pay-per-view in America, right?
No. Showtime, regular. No,
that'll be interesting to see the numbers they do, because they're obviously going against a big UFC card as well this weekend. So
it's been getting a lot of promotion in terms of they've done like the mini 24/7 type series.
So it should, yeah.
They've been I think it will do above 1 million views, which is pretty good in the States.
24/7 series thing.
It's on YouTube. It's called
on YouTube. Is it on there? Yeah.
All Access or whatever they call it.
Yeah, that's it.
It's pretty good. Both guys are quite different to each other. I think it's quite interesting.
What's Angel like? Angel, whatever you call him.
He's not in it very much. I think they've told him to chill out.
The cast in America have been great all year, haven't they?
Good start to the year, to be fair.
Yeah, especially the American cast, the triple headers, been brilliant.
Yeah, but it's been a good start, and we're kind of letting the side down over here with a load of novelty fights, sadly. Right now, guys, just one more thing to do before we go, which is to do the Tony Dodson the answer. Now, I've had a few different entries in here, a couple of weird ones where people went a completely different way and went with sort of 7 or 8 different common opponents, which is not what I told you to do.
To be fair, I think I've got about.
I'll tell you what, mate. Do you want to give me your one first? So this is Paul Smith to Kostya. Tell me how you did it.
It's Smith to Abraham.
Yeah,
Abraham to Murray.
That's 1. Yeah. 2.
Murray to Martinez.
Yep. 3.
Martinez to Cotto.
Yep.
Cotto to Mayweather.
Yep.
Mayweather to Hatton and Hatton to Zoo. So it is quite a few.
Absolutely mental. That's like 9 or something.
I just did it. Literally, I did it in the first 2 minutes you asked me. I didn't look for a quicker one.
You've got to look you've got to look to join them up, because there's a couple in there that you could link together a bit quicker than do you know what I mean? There are guys with sort of one common opponent where you put 2 in
Teach
place.
Me the way.
Well, the way there's the beauty of the game is that there's usually one guy in there that you don't expect, and you think, oh, I didn't know so and so fought him, So I always try and reverse engineer them and then see how we go. Now we had a good entry in, which a lot of people went the Martinez route, and the way I've done it was not was not involving Martinez at all. So we had Smith to Steve Bendel, which I like as a start. Then on to Darren Barker, then to Williams, then to Byron Mitchell, and then to Kostya. Now I like Byron Mitchell being included in there. I think that's a good shout.
See, I looked someone else went on box Smith, and I never clicked on his name. I should have though. Oh well.
Williams is a decent route. The other one we had was Smith to Bendel to Barker, Martinez, Cotto, Judah, Zoo. So you stuck in. You went Cotto, Mayweather, Hatton, Zoo. You could have had Judah in there as a shortcut, but no one got it. No one got it. It was terrible. Oh, actually, no one's done it in less than 5. It's quite disappointing. We also had Smith to Samuels to Williams to Martinez, Cotto, Judah, Zoo. Rubbish. And Smith, Bendel, Sylvester, Giel. I like that. Cotto, Oh, Urkel, Zoo. That's nice. Urkel, of course, fought Zoo and Cotto. That's decent, but they're all wrong. The correct answer, or the quickest way I did it, was Paul Smith. 2, Arthur Abraham. 2, Jermaine Taylor. 2, Vince Phillips. 2, Kostya Tszyu. There you go, in 5.
Boom.
And the as soon as I saw Phillips, I thought, right, no one's going to get that, because he was a welter who moved up to middleweight right at the end. So everyone loses once again. The house wins. But thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll be back. What would it be? Third week of the month or whatever. There's a couple of good fights towards the end of March, so we will.
You excited about the Katie Taylor fight on the undercard yet?
I just don't care, mate. I don't care about women's boxing.
I got that.
You can talk about it. Well, yeah, you can talk about it if you want. I genuinely, I've got no issue with it.
I'm only joking. They're trying to do what the UFC did with women, aren't they? And it's just not. It's not going to work.
Yeah, for some reason, I don't mind women's UFC. I mean, I don't really watch UFC, but I don't mind watching it. I've got no interest in women's boxing. It just doesn't. I don't care about Nicola Adams. The
only good fight they could make would be Adams and Taylor, because they're both obviously massive names, but Taylor's too big for her. So
I wouldn't even watch that. I just don't care. To me, it's like women's football. It's just not as good. And no, it's not an insult. It's
the UFC somehow they've just kind of not brainwashed people, but it just seems acceptable now. So I don't know. They've done well. Fair play.
Yeah, I mean, look, I guess it's a good thing.
Kind of.
It's a good thing in terms of diversifying the sport and bringing it to new audiences. That's great. Totally, I've got no issue with her being on the card, but I won't watch it. I will go out and make a cup of tea or something. But that's just me.
Quality. Anyway.
Right. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining, and hope you all win lots of money at the weekend following our tips. But yeah, cheers. We'll be back the week of the 13th, which will be just in time for Golovkin Jacobs, and that'll be the next big one that we're back for. But yeah, in the meantime, thank you very much for joining me, guys, and
thanks for having us on.
Yeah, pleasure. We'll get you back on at some point in the future.
Conor McGregor, pound for pound, number 1.